All right, guys, here's our next project. It's a 2019 Teryx 4 800. It has been in a garage for 6 months, and it looks immaculate. I mean, there's no dirt in here anywhere that I've even really seen. You can see some maybe down here by the pedals. Maybe it's been power washed. It's got 481 miles and 73 hours. A lot of this is just dust even from sitting in a garage. So I got this because the engine is completely messed up. And anywhere you look on this, it looks super clean. I mean, like out of the showroom clean. You can see maybe there's some stuff on the muffler, but it is immaculate. Now, what the problem is though, and we'll hear, I'll throw a clip in here, is that the engines ran without oil, got hydro-locked, fuel pump, or excuse me, oil pump failure, something, because it's got some heavy knocks. First thing we're gonna do is let's take off the roll cage and start taking it apart and get that engine out. All right, so we've taken this thing all apart and got the engine out. And it looks clean until you find places that can't get a hose. So on all the plugs, there was lots of dirt and dust. You can see some here. That one's pretty clean. Let's look at some of these other ones though. I mean, all these down here, all around, that's the throttle body, back up under some plastic. But some dead giveaways are just like, I mean, the filter is just nasty. Look at all that in there. And then that was from the air box, and that one had a whole bunch of just powdered dust in it, like this right here. And so it's just bad. It's been hydro locked. So we'll get that engine back to the shop, pull it all apart, and see what kind of pieces we need to order to get it back to new. This is from one of the air intakes, and you can see it's just caked in mud there. It's not even wet anymore, but the whole tube is just full. Gonna have some of that in the engine. Okay, so we got the engine up on the table here. This is the rear, this is the front, and we can see that rear is not too bad. It's a little dirty up on top. This part would be about level with the ground, so we're tilted forward a good 30 degrees or so. But that front cylinder is just toast. This guy, I got to figure out what that is. That never even had a hose on it. I'm not sure what it is yet, because here's your coolant line to the front. I think it was. There's another one somewhere else. You had one from this cylinder here going to here, which is all black and black inside. I don't know if that's oil that blew a head gasket, got oil in it, and then the coolant returns over there somewhere, but we can see it's pretty dirty. So let's start taking it apart. We'll start by taking the heads off, or the valve covers really, and then the heads, and then we'll eventually split it. Okay, we are on the driver's side of the engine, and we took a little timing screw out, or see the time marks, and then we took out this little screw there where we can see the crankshaft. This was an 8mm Allen, and then we have a 17mm screw right here, and we're going to turn it until we see TF. The T is going to be sideways, and we should see an F for the front cylinder, which is what we're working on first. Okay, and we're only turning this counterclockwise, which should be, you know, pushing down. Okay, now what you want is that top of the T, so to speak, to be directly in line with this guy right here. So you see we have the T going down, that line, and then there's the F. So now we're ready to take off the front cylinder. Okay, so we got the top or front head off, rocker. I think we actually need to go one more. We need to go one more down. It's got a sleeve that goes down. Chain looks good. The piston was really dirty, like a black soot, and I cleaned that off. But if you look at the valves over here, they're real crusty, but they don't feel like anything's seating bad. And then the rocker arms and the valve or camshaft look fine. So nothing you can feel with your finger or anything like that. So I guess perhaps it's something in the back, and a lot of this grit that's on here is probably dirt that got in here, but not what caused a problem, because this piston's solid in there. I don't feel like it has any problem. So when we get this side off, we'll most likely find the problem. Either that or it's down in further with the camshaft, or excuse me, the crankshaft, which is very possible too. Alright, we got the cylinder sleeve off. Piston is worn around the outside. Can't really feel anything on that side. On this bottom side, we should be able to. You can see those marks. And then on the cylinder sleeve itself, you can see those right there. And I can feel them with my finger and my nail. They're pretty good. So I'll try and hone it out. Maybe just buy another one. We'll see how much it is. So now that we got this side done, we'll go to the next side. I will say side to side is a little bit, that's normal. Up and down is good, and on the crankshaft is good. So the rings seem way too loose. Side to side is okay. Up and down, there's no play, and back and forth, there's no play. So the piston pin and the crank on this side, at least the bearings, seem like to be okay. We're still going to take it off and look, but we'll see what we got next. So on to the other side and see what that looks like. So there you can see our TR is lined up with that notch, which means you're ready for the rear cylinder. And I'll go ahead and take off the valve cover and the valves and the head, and I'll just stop whenever we get to a messy place to show you guys, if there is one. Alright, we got the rear cylinder off. It's got a lot of dirt and such in there. I mean, that's more than just carbon. The sleeve on this side also has a few gouges in them. Not too much. Mostly, let's see if I can feel where they are again. Yeah, there's a few on this side. This one doesn't seem nearly as bad, which is somewhat ironic because this rear cylinder is the one that's got the problem. So if we look in here, it's pretty obvious. It's got spun bearings on that side, so take these guys out. We'll have to crank out, take off the sides and see how we're going to get this crank out. Hopefully this guy has a transmission built into it, and so, which is this guy right here, this half I would say. So we want to try and leave that alone, and we'll see what we can do just taking off these sides if we can get that crankshaft out of there. Okay, here we are on the right side, the driver's side. Which I guess is right or left, depending on which way you want to look at it, front or back. We got our starter gear right here, right? It only goes one direction, so you can't spin it clockwise, only counterclockwise. Our magneto. Here's your gear for the coolant drive, which goes right here on the outside. This is kind of interesting with the oil filter. With a different case, you can actually have the oil filter on this side because these two holes just lead to this guy. And if we look down at the case, we have this right here, which will cover that hole, which you could actually put another oil filter on. Now, this one's not threaded on the inside, and I don't know if it's supposed to, so I might just have a different case. I also wanted to look at this because that's doesn't seem to go anywhere, never had anything on it. I think it's just empty. I guess we can look at it real quick. So, goes to a blank hole on the top, and it goes to this hole, which May not go anywhere. That's super dry, so I don't think that goes anywhere. So now we get to go take off all this wonderful stuff. There's a chain tensioner here. This is probably some oil pickup maybe for the transmission. There's a chain tensioner here and up here. So let's get this bolt off, take the magneto off, and then start just pulling things out. Alright, we got the case split here. This is your transmission, and I already took the crank out. And we did have some spun bearings. You can see the one that was really shaky had just these two pieces left, and they were actually on top of each other, like so, on the bottom. And then we had the other cylinder, wasn't as bad, it was stiff, but we can still see that these guys spun a little bit as well. You can see that light in there. The connecting rods, the inside on the one that spun a bunch is rough. Yeah, this guy right here, so he's trash. And then we also have this guy here who spun but was not as bad. But the inside of him still has some rough edges I can feel with my finger. I don't know if that'll show up on the camera or not. And so he's done as well. So, but the gears and the bearings and all that kind of good stuff, don't see any real damage in there. There are little bits and pieces of metal in here. I think this engine was flushed at least once with oil because it was brand new oil when I emptied it. And so someone tried to fix it or hide their tracks pretty decent, but it is toast. And we have all those pieces down here. And we said before, the cylinder sleeves are going to have to be replaced, but everything internal appears like we will be in decent shape. So I'll go through and take tallies. I'm going to go look at these valves again, clean them off, and just make sure they're seated pretty good. And if they are, then, and hopefully they are, we'll be in good shape. Thanks. See ya. Engine's in. Sounds good. I'm throwing this last little piece in here because I actually had to take the whole engine back out and replace the aftermarket oil pump with an OEM oil pump. After the engine warmed up, at idle, the low oil pressure light would just flash on and off, and you can see right here testing oil pressure. At idle, there would be almost no oil pressure, and you'd have to raise the RPM to get up to specifications. Replacing it with the OEM oil pump fixed the problem. You guys take care.